Hi guys, welcome to this video for Return to Earth. This is a game by me. I promised a setup video and a playthrough video a few months ago. I had a few problems with my camera equipment. I've only just got it sorted and fixed, so I apologise for the delay. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the playthrough video first. So I've got some of the components already laid out. What I'll do is I'll work through the setup guide in the rule book so I don't miss anything, and then what we do is we set up the game. So what you'll find is that if you look on the Game Crafters website, you'll find that there's two bits for this game. So you've got the main box game, and then we've got the upgrade pack as well. And I think I explained about the upgrade pack in the components video, the unboxing video. I'll just go over it quickly again. In the base game you will get components like this. That's a stand-up cardboard pawn counter that you would use. In the upgrade pack you get some plastic pawn tokens for you to move around the board. There's one for each player of those. That's 4 of those, and you get 4 NPCs, the ones in white, as in that pack. But you can find all those details out on the website. They also come with a ring, which we'll use in this setup video, but in the base game, if you've just got the base game, then you won't get these components. You'll be getting cardboard equivalents. And there's some extra money. So the game is played with a series of different cash notes, and basically it doubles up the amount of cash notes that you get in the base game. So that's what the upgrade pack brings to the game. I'll go through what some of the components are and what they're called before we start setting the game up, so that you're one step ahead of what I'm talking about as we're playing it. So obviously this is the board. The game comes with some dice, 2 red and 2 blue. We've got 4 player mats. Now the player mats are basically your ship's log. So you're a starship captain. You're trying to do certain things within the game. We'll discuss that in a minute. They're virtually identical, apart from each one has a special rule. So the green player would have this mat, and he's got a special rule that he can use during the game, he or she. Yellow, red and blue. So you've got different rules that apply. What we're going to be doing in this video is we're going to set up the green player. So I'll keep that one handy, and the others we'll put to one side. Okay, so they're the player mats. Then you've got, in the base game, you've got 105 of these notes. They come in 50s, 500s, 100s, 50s, 10s, 5s and 1s. So we've got double the amount because we're playing with that upgrade pack as well. So we've got some notes. Then you've got starship pawns. So you'll either be playing with this type or this type, depending if you have the upgrade pack. Let's see, we have 4 NPC pawns as well. So they're NPCs, and the coloured ones are your player pawns. And we've got quite a lot of small markers. So there's quite a lot of player markers. So we've got these. They're in 4 different colours. Let's show you those. So we've got the blue, the yellow player, the blue player, and the red players. Player markers. There's some resource markers. You get 10 of those. I'll show you a couple. On the back of those, they have the resource icon, and then on this side we have various different resources. So I apologise for the glare off of the light I'm using. I'm filming relatively in the dark, so I've got a lamp set up to try and help with the lighting, but we do get a bit of glare, so I apologise for the glare. So that's the resource markers, and we've got some system markers. We're going to how these work in a bit. There's 6 of those. They're double-sided, so they've got the same on both sides. So they're your resource system markers. And we've got these passenger tokens. So we've got, they're double-sided. One side is your fugitives, that's orange, and your travellers are in purple, and that's quite important when you're going visiting spaceports. We've got a time marker and the first player token. Then we've got the some different planets and asteroids and so forth. So we've got these asteroid tokens, and they will get placed on the board. And then we've got planets. There's 6 planets, and we'll look at those in a bit and discuss those. And then you've got a few other cores of the systems, like the sun and a gas planet and some collapsing stars. So they're those. There's also a few additional system markers that get placed as and when they occur during the game, and we'll look at those in the playthrough video. So that's those, and that pretty much, apart from the cards, there's 2 types of cards. There's the events, galactic event cards, and we have the mission cards. So the mission cards are the main core element of the game. So what we'll now do is, that's all the components. So what we do is we start setting up the game. I'm going to set it up for a 1-player game, just because it'll make it easier for demonstrating, and we'll try and cover all the rules when we do the playthrough of the game. So what we'll do is I'll start from the very first section of the setting up a game. So the first thing is to obviously place your board on the table. I'm going to set it back a bit to about there so that we can get all the bits in camera shot. Now what we need to do is take the asteroid markers and mark these on the board. So the asteroids, I'll just explain the sections of the board. These are systems, these are sectors, and these are cores of the system. So what we do is all these tokens are placed at the centre of each system, and they are placed in these hexagonal spaces. So what we do is, at the beginning of the game, we place the 2 asteroids in those 2 positions there. And what that means is when a player is moving onto there, because asteroids aren't, it's not always possible to map the asteroids, they need to stop and halt their movement and plan a route through the asteroid fields. So that's those. Right, let's have a look at 2, 3. So now we need to mix up these resource markers. So these have already pretty much been mixed up. What we're going to do is we're going to place one of these on each one of these places here on the board. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. When they're all placed, you flip them over, and this randomises the board so that it's not the same every time you play. So we'll put all these over here. Okay, and I'm missing one there. So now we flip them over, and we can look at those and see what they are on our player mats. So they've all got a different appearance, and we'll go through them one at a time. I'll bring them up to the camera shot. So starting off with space junk. So space junk looks like that. I'll try and get fairly close. Okay, so there's space junk. So when you're in that sector, you can try and collect that space junk. Ore. Let's have a look for some ore. Okay, and that's like a silver ore colour. See if we can get a bit closer. Okay, so that's your ore. Now we're going to look for plasma. So you can collect ore, you can mine ore, and you can collect some plasma. So collecting and mining are two different operations. They're performed in exactly the same way, and we'll do that in the playthrough video, but they're essentially mined, and one's mined and one's collected. And then lastly, you've got titanium. So titanium's got a very gold appearance. Okay, so that's those. Right, the next thing is these planets. So we take all the planets and we flip them over, and you're only mixing up, we've got to mix them up now, so you're only mixing up the ones that have the space back to them. The other ones that are double-sided, these are all double-sided, don't include those when you're placing the cores, the planetary cores on the board. So what we're going to do is we're going to place one in each of these at random, and this is going to determine the board again and make it a bit different each time you play. So I'm going to take all these up and shuffle them a bit, and then we're going to place them in random places on the board, and then we'll look at them and I'll go through a bit of what they do. So I'm doing that wrong, so let's mix them up. So really what we need to do is place them all without looking at them first. Okay, so I'm going to place them like so, anywhere on the board, and then we can start flipping them over. When you flip them over, or orientate them so that the writing is red with all the other writing that's on the board. So obviously don't place one like that, it needs to be placed like that, and it's important that you do that because there's these arrows that need to line up with these sectors. Okay, so we'll put all those down, and this will heavily determine certain strategies that you will have to play during the game. So depending on where certain planets are compared to the other elements will determine how you might want to sort of play your style of game. So once they're all down, what we do is we just go through a bit of information about these. So each one of these planets and other cores, these system markers, they've got a number, a letter, or a series of letters that signify, now that we've placed them, that that sector is sector belonging to that planet, and it takes the planet's the first letter of the planet's name. So this becomes sector A because it's the planet begins with the letter A. So now everything within this sector is now relating to sector A because of that planet. This one will be C, B, this one will be CS2. So everything in that sector is CS2, and the sun, everything will be sun in that sector. And this one, GP for gas planet, everything in this sector is referred to the gas planet. And that's quite important because when you're performing missions, it will tell you to go to a certain sector. So you'll be looking on the board and it'll tell you to go to D8. So you will have to first find the planet core that is D, which is this one, and then you would then look for the sector 8, and the sector numbers are written around the outside of the actual planet core. So Despui D8 would be this space here because that is sector 8. So when you're told to go to D8, that is the space that you would go to. So that's quite important, and again we'll be covering a bit more of that when we start actually playing their playthrough. So now we need to shuffle the galactic event cards. So there's 12 of these, and what you're going to do is you're going to shuffle these up and you're going to place them in these spaces here face down. Okay, and there's 10 spaces, so 2 are not going to get used. So these, don't look at them, they get placed back into the game box and out the way, so you won't be using those two in the game. That sort of randomizes what you can expect to find each game, so you're not going to get the same galactic events each time you play. And some of these galactic events, they will impact, well, they will all impact the game in some way, and we're going to that in a bit with the playthrough in the next video. And then what you need to do is you need to place this time marker on space 0, so put that there on the time track. So this is a time track that follows the galactic events. Okay, just a bit about the time track. As this moves along, yellow spaces, you do nothing. When you come to a blue space, you flip that galactic card over. That activates the galactic card. All while one of these cards is face up, all of the instructions on there need to be adhered to and followed throughout the game. And then when you eventually get around to the second part of the track and you move on to a red space, the card that's linked to that red space is flipped back over, and so now that galactic event is no longer in play. So that's a bit about that. Now it says to shuffle the says for us to shuffle, I'm just going to lay that across there. It says to shuffle the player mats and hand one to each player. Well, if it's your first game, I would recommend, and especially if you're playing solo, is to play with the green player, because they've got quite a nifty ability. So you can try out all the others, but in this demonstration we're going to use the green player, and I'm going to place him probably there. I'm going to lose the box. Okay, and then we can start setting up the player board. All of these pieces I'm not going to use because I'm going to play one player, so I'm going to put them away. And what we're going to do is you receive your player markers, so you're going to get some player markers, and I'm going to put them in a little dish just to keep them all together. Okay, so these are little like sauce dishes that I picked up at a supermarket for about 30p, so it's quite handy. Right, let's get these put in there. Okay, you're going to get quite a few of those, so you want to keep them together, so I'll put that there for now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start marking. You get your pawn, which you're going to use these new type ones. Place that there for now, put that one out of the way. Right, and we also get one of these rings as well, which we won't use in a single player game, but you could do if you wanted. So each player then places a player marker on the following position, so we're going to follow that. So you place one on shields at 100%, one on fuel at the full marker, one in the center space of the reputation track, so we'll be looking at all these in a bit. I'll just explain what they all do. And on each 0 space of the goods on the hold, so we want quite a few of them, so we want 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there's your player setup, and then one on either your current ship track at A or B. So we're going to make it a bit of an easier game. We're going to start off with a spaceship class B, and then the remaining player markers can go here, and you also get some cash. So this might be a good time to start laying out the cash. Okay, so right, you can place these anywhere next to the table, anywhere next to the board. I'm going to place them up here. I think you can see them in the camera shot. Okay. Right, so we've got $1, $5, $10, $50, $100 and $500. So a starting player gets $30. So we get one times, you get $1, you get 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll place them down here. You get 1 5 and 2 10s. So you don't get a lot of money to start with. And I would stress that if you're really struggling at the start when you're playing this game, and if you did want to increase the amount of starting money you could, I would recommend doubling up, going to $60 and no more. And as long as all players have got $60, then you've made it a level playing field. But the official rule is to start with $30. Okay. Next is what we do is we shuffle the mission cards. So before we do that, I'll just go through a few things about this mat. So on the mat we've got a reputation track. Your reputation counter starts off here, and as you do bad things in the galaxy it will move this way. As you do good things in the galaxy it will move this way. When you start hitting into the red spaces, you might start having problems being allowed to dock at ports, so that's something to be aware of. And then if you're too famous, you will be recognised, and you will be constantly when you land at ports, you'll be expected to attend functions and meet and greet people and generally be hassled, so you'll be having less actions, and you'll be able less time to do things at the port. This section is your ship track, so this tells you what ship you've got and all the values underneath that column. When your marker is there or there or there, any below your marker is all the values for your current ship. So in the example of, say, your ship is in ship marker is at B, your weapons are 2, defense 2, you can hold 2 crew, you can have 2 tech, you can have 2 cabins for passengers or travellers, and you can hold up to 5 goods, and it's worth $150. So your hold, we'll go through these bits in here. When you upgrade your ship and put some tech on it, you place one of your player markers on these spaces. It tells you what they do in this section. When you hire crew, you place your markers on these places and it tells you what they do down below there. You've got your shields value here. As you get damaged, you move your shield marker down here until it reaches 0, and then you're in trouble. And we'll go into that during the playthrough. Fuel. If you run out of fuel while you're moving around the board, then all you can do is drift. You can drift whichever way you want, but it's a very slow way of getting around the board. So just excuse me, I'm just going to have a drink of water. Now, when you're at spaceports, you'll be able to take on board these passengers, these tokens, and when you take them on board, they have a destination, and so whichever planet they are destined for, you place their marker on that space, and then when you go to that port, when you go to the port in that system, for instance this one, then you would be able to unload that passenger and collect some fare from them for that trip. And then the hold. So in the hold, what happens is you will take on goods and offload goods, and you will move your marker up and down this track. If you're buying goods, you will have to pay money. If you're selling goods, obviously you will get money. And in this section here, this is where your special rule is. So in this case, the yellow player, he's a prospector. Reduce the number of dice rolled by 1 when making an advanced mining collecting test, and we're going to that during the playthrough. Okay, so that's the player mat. Let's have a look at the next bit. So the mission cards. So what we need to do now is we take these cards and we give them a shuffle, and then place them beside the board. And then each player gets 1 mission card, which they may choose to keep or to discard. So when you keep a card, it gets placed with your player mat, and when you discard a card, it's put in a pile beside the mission deck. So we're going to draw this one. So we've got Back to the Future. So this is a red mission card. You will find blue mission cards. When you complete a red mission card, your reputation will move towards the red side, and when you perform a blue one and you complete that, it will move back this way towards the fame side. So you can juggle your fame and your piracy level depending on what mission cards you perform. And this one says at sector E4 risk 5 and 6. So what the player would have to do is would have to move their starship to E4, which is over here, E4, there's sector 4, and then they perform a risk of 5 and 6, and we're going to how that works during the playthrough. So we're going to keep that, we'll keep that card, so that gets placed there. And then we need to right, so that's our mission card. If you was to complete that mission, you flip it over and keep it within your playing area. If you fail it, you discard it. Okay, so right, so the next thing is your NPC player markers. So you take one for each player in the game. So in a 1-player game, you will have one of these. In a 4-player game, you have 4 of these. We're using the upgraded one, so the one you get in the standard game. I'll just return that. But if you are playing and you wanted to play with more NPC starships around, there's nothing wrong with you putting more of them around on the board and making the game a bit more challenging for you. But the correct rule is to just use one per player. With the NPCs, they won't affect you until you're on the same space as them. You need to work out a random position for this to be placed on the board. So we've got the random sector data here on the board. It's also in the rule book, and what you do is you roll a red and a blue die, and then you cross-reference the red die result with the blue die result on this table here, and it says that the NPC starship will begin at E1. So it gives us a location of E1, so you find E and then you find the sector 1, which is this one, and we place the NPC starship there. Okay, and then also as well you place the NPC shield tracker on the track, so you can place it anywhere. I'll put it beside that place there. Any NPCs that you haven't used, they can go back to the board, back to the box, and beside the board you want to place your dice, and these I generally put them up here for safekeeping. I should put the you want to put all your passenger tokens somewhere safe by the board. Should be using them quite a bit, and then we put them up there ready for them. Then we place all these beside the board. So these will come into play when certain ones of these are placed or certain things happen in the galaxy. I've seen the most sci-fi films, so you can try and work that out. Place gets the first player marker, and that gets passed from player to player during the course of the game. And then you choose a planet to place your token on. So when you're placing planets in a multiplayer game, you're placing your pawn on the planets. You can't choose the same planet. And likewise, when we was rolling for an NPC, if we was playing with more than one NPC ship, they couldn't begin in the same sector, so you would keep rolling until you could place another NPC ship in a different sector. Now I've actually got a mission card for E4, so it would make sense for me to begin at E4. So I'm going to place my token there. And that pretty much wraps up the playthrough video. What we're going to do next is we're going to have a look at the, we're going to do a video. I'm going to try and follow this on and get this one out for the next day. And that will be a playthrough video, and we'll set up the game with some objectives. So each game that you play, I'll just go over this quickly, you've got a series of objectives that you can set. You can also set 1, 2, 3, 4, all of them as an objective. What you do is you pick out what you want your players to achieve in the game and set a target for it. So if you wanted them to earn a certain amount of money, we suggest that they would need to make $1,000. When they've made $1,000, at the end of that round, the player that's got $1,000 will win the game. There's also the ship, certain type of starship. We recommend Class E. A number of missions, 12. That's the one we're going to be playing in the playthrough. We're going to set a target of 12 missions probably. A set number of rounds, so each round we move this token around, so we could play for just 15 rounds and then see who has the most money at the end of it. Fame, to try and reach 6 fame, or another one is piracy, to try and reach 6 piracy. So there's different ways that you can mix up the game and make the game a bit more different and play with different objectives. And like I say, you could collate them together so that you're doing 2 or 3 as well, so that you could beat. You're not quite sure what your other players are going to be doing. If you activated money, ships and missions, another player could sneak in and pip you to the post by getting $1,000 while you're trying to still achieve 12 missions. So there's different ways of mixing the game up. So that concludes this playthrough video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm going to move on and start working on a playthrough. So thanks for watching, and catch up with us next time. Bye for now.